Coming up on iOS today, Rosemary, Orchard, and I are getting in the holiday spirit, and we are going to show you how to plan for your big holidays. Stay tuned.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
This episode of iOS Today is brought to you by Audible. Audible is the leading provider of spoken word entertainment. Right now, for a limited time, save 60% on your first 3 months of Audible. That's only $5.95 a month. Give yourself the gift of listening. For more, go to audible.com/iOS Today or text iOS Today to 500-500. And by BetterHelp. Join more than 1 million people who have taken charge of their mental health. As a listener, you'll get 10% off your first month by visiting betterhelp.com/iOS. And by Coinbase. Cryptocurrency might feel like a secret or exclusive club, but Coinbase believes that everyone, everywhere should be able to get in the door. Whether you've been trading for years or just getting started, Coinbase can help. For a limited time, new users can get $10 in free Bitcoin when you sign up today at coinbase.com/iOS. Whoa, ha, he, hello, and welcome to iOS Today, the show where we talk all things iOS, tvOS, HomePod OS, watchOS, iPad OS. It's all the OSs Apple has on offer, and we are excited to be with you today. My name is Mikah Sargent.
And I'm Rosemary Orchard. Hi, everybody.
Hello, Rosemary. How are you today?
Oh, I'm good. I mean, I don't have the end of the week off like most of you do in the States. I don't have this week off, which I know some employers are being generous enough to give to their employees. But, you know, I'm starting to get in the spirit for some holiday fun. And I thought, you know, let's share this and get excited and, you know, enjoy all of the things that we can share with each other, because it turns out there's a lot.
There is. And in fact, what's kind of nice is that this may be, for some folks, the first time in a year-ish that we have gotten together in a more safe way. I know certainly last year there was not, for me, holiday gatherings. And so folks are getting ready. They're having to sort of reflex those planning muscles and figure out what needs to be done. And so we thought we would release this episode today, a few days before the Thanksgiving holiday here in the U.S. Canada already had their Thanksgiving. And so preparing for Thanksgiving, preparing for the holidays later in the year, including Christmas and Hanukkah, and so many more. And so we thought we'd talk about ways to help you kind of figure out what's going on, make sure everybody's on the same page. And it turns out there's a lot of this that can be done without even downloading any apps. So you don't necessarily have to go and download apps, although we will show you a couple. But most of the stuff we're talking about today is all built into iOS. So Rosemary, why don't you kick us off with the first tip to help us figure out our holiday planning?
Yeah, well, the first tip is an incredibly flexible tip, because I don't know about you, Micah, but I frequently end up needing to share bits of information with people, or somebody asks, you know, what do you want for the holidays, things like that. And that is where Notes comes in. Good old-fashioned Notes. The Notes app can do so many things. So we actually demoed recently on the show as part of the feedback section how you can share folders. So I've actually got a folder here. You can see I've got several folders. And so in this folder, if I tap on the 3 dots, then I can actually go ahead and share a whole folder. And this could be really useful for planning, for example, for a specific holiday where you create a folder, I don't know, Thanksgiving 2021, Christmas 2021, whatever it is. And you can share that. Or you can share an individual note. And what I like about sharing individual notes, of course, is that you can share them with just a couple of people. So if I wanted to share this secrets and awesomeness note, then I could go ahead and type in the person I want to share this with and then send it. And they get that and they can jump in and edit it too, which can be really useful if, for example, you're using it for gift planning or as a way to write down a shopping list and so on. There are other options for lists that you can check off. But sometimes having a little bit of extra information in notes can be really good, because don't forget, notes has the ability, of course, to let you draw. Of course, if you've got an iPad with an Apple Pencil, you can use that. But, even just with a good old finger on your iPhone, you can do that. Now, my doodle, as you can see, is absolutely amazing. It's Picasso quality. But, if you want to go ahead and, do something a little bit more elaborate, you've got the ability to do that. And of course, you've got the camera, so you can choose a photo, take a photo, and even scan documents. So I actually have a little QR code here, which I'm going to try scanning, because I think people forget that the Notes app is so flexible because it can do all of these things. And there we go. It's scanned this little QR code, which is connecting to a smart USB controller I've been playing with. And I can just tap done and save, and then it's input my scanned document there. So Notes is really, really powerful for collecting lots of information in various formats and then sharing it with each other on a note by note basis or folder by folder. And you've got lots of choices, which I know definitely helps my family out, Micah. And I'm sure it helps you and your friends out from time to time too.
Yeah. In fact, one of the things that I use shared notes for is this media checklist that I have with my partner. And essentially, it's one of those places where we store different titles of media, where we'll be talking with the other person. Have you seen da-da-da? And the person says, no. And he said, oh, you haven't seen da-da-da-da? And so we immediately add it to our shared checklist. And then as we go through and watch these different things, for example, Black Swan, the movie he hadn't seen, so had that on the list. These are some that we have checked off. V for Vendetta, Star Trek Voyager, United States of Terra, Last Man on Earth, just different films and television shows, etc., that we both add to the list, that we then, if we go through and watch them, we can check them off of that list. And it's a really nice thing, because anytime something gets added to the list by me or by him, then the other person gets a notification letting us know something's been added. You can pop in and see what it is, or see where you've checked off things as having watched them. And again, you can share these with multiple users so that you can have a list of sometimes people will use them for travel. So you may do that if you're planning on traveling for this holiday season or upcoming holiday seasons, holiday happenings. Then you may want to have a set list where it's got information of here's where we're all meeting, here's the schedule, here's the hotel that we're planning on staying at, or here's where Uncle Kevin and Aunt Julie are staying while they're in town, and where Grandma and Grandpa are planning on being, et cetera, et cetera. And all of that can be updated amongst everybody. And with the checklists, I really like, because as you check things off, then it can kind of drop to the bottom of the list. That's an option that you can set up. And so things get out of the way. So if you're sharing a grocery list, then this is a great way to make sure you've got everything. And especially, this is a pro tip, as we are gearing up for a food-focused holiday here in the United States, sometimes you can't find everything you're looking for at one store. And so spreading out to multiple stores and finding what you need is a very good idea. And if you've got a note that automatically updates with a couple of people in it, then you can make sure, okay, check, I've got this. The other person looks when they get to the second store and they go, okay, they found those things, I need to find these things. Very good to kind of have a back and forth there, making sure that everything that you're looking for on the list gets checked off. So I very much like shared notes. Occasionally we'll have, shared notes where it's almost like Text Expander, but for friends and family who don't quite get Text Expander or understand how Text Expander works. There may be occasional things that I've taken the time to write out that need to be sort of saved and reused. And so I can share that note with them. They can make sure that they've got access to it and be able to pull from it. So yeah, I think shared notes is an incredible feature. And as you've pointed out, very easy feature. And with that folder option, the shared folder option, suddenly you can have a whole list of different notes that are shared amongst family members, or if you are doing show planning for podcasts, for example, that can be helpful there too.
Yeah, definitely. And there's just so much flexibility to it. And I think a lot of people forget that, Good Old Notes has come a long way. It's no longer that skeuomorphic as such design with the fake leather across the top and the stitching. It still has that paper effect, which some of us love and some of us hate. But you can add everything from lined paper to more, and it is incredibly flexible, which means that you've got a lot of great options. But I don't know about you, Micah, but sometimes I feel maybe Notes is a little bit too freeform for some people or for some things, and especially when it comes to shopping for a meal where you just need a list of ingredients and it doesn't matter whether or not somebody bought the carrots, yesterday or today, providing the carrots are bought, but we don't want an overload of carrots. And for that sort of thing, I actually don't use Notes because Notes is just too flexible and people can write all over the place and they end up doodling and stuff. I love the list for in Reminders for this, because Reminders has all of the flexibility that you need for a list, but nothing else. And so I've actually got a shared reminders list here with you, Micah, that I just created just before the show. And you've added a reminder to it, which says grab the app cap. And that was due a little while ago. Oh no, I didn't grab my app cap. What am I going to do? Oh, wait, right. It's right here. We're good. But if we, if there are things on this, you can add reminders. You can also go ahead and actually even assign this reminder to a person. So I can assign it to myself or Micah. And if there's multiple people, then you could assign it to, whoever else, if you like. You can add reminders for locations or when messaging. I love this feature, Micah. I don't know if you use this very often, but it is so good because this way, whoever ends up messaging Great Aunt Martha first, well, they'll get it pop up on their phone and hopefully they'll actually ask her about whatever it is. And then,
really quick, I'll clarify just for folks who may be confused. There's an option in the Reminders app, the default Reminders app. You have 3 different ways to trigger a reminder. There is date and time, which I'm going to include as one kind of thing, location, and then an option called when messaging. When messaging is a really cool option that says anytime you hop into the Messages app and you start texting this person, then pop up that reminder. So if I know that I want to tell my mom about a recent article that I saw, but I want to wait until I'm actually talking to her back and forth to send that message, I could set up in my reminders list, show mom this article, I copy and paste the URL in there, and then I check that box that says when messaging, and then choose the person, and in this case, my mom, and then it will send at that time. Or when messaging Rosemary, ask her what her app cap is going to be. That's an example. There are all sorts of options there. And particularly for me, I love that because I'm a person who wants to sort of like when something pops into my head, oh, I want to share this with this person. It may not be the best time in the moment. And so setting up that reminder really quickly is very helpful to then go, oh yeah, I'm supposed to send this to them or I'm supposed to talk to them about this. So very cool feature that I'm so glad they added. And I would love to just give rounds of applause to the team responsible for sort of pitching that feature internally and then making that feature happen.
Yeah, it is so powerful. And what I do love about reminders, Micah, which is a little better than Notes perhaps, is the instant sync. So you added the grab the app cap and you said that today. Well, I've just changed it to next week and I bet it's already next week on your phone. And sometimes when you're typing in Notes, if you've got 2 or 3 people typing at the same time, you can end up accidentally stealing each other's bits of text. But because, you're adding have some chocolate, I can just go ahead and check that off because of course I had chocolate before the show and that's disappeared right before your eyes. And that hasn't just disappeared on my phone, that's disappeared on Micah's phone, on his iPad, on his Mac, and everywhere that you have reminders. And of course, the other beauty of reminders, which I feel sometimes people might forget, is the Apple Watch integration, because you can have this appear in a complication on your Apple Watch so that you have your list and then you can see the next thing that needs to be done. And this can be really useful when you're trying to get a whole bunch of things done on a particular day or, as part of your shopping or something, because you can just see the next item, tap it, and then check it off and you're good. And that is incredibly powerful. And of course, Notes doesn't have the ability to just show the next line of the note on your Apple Watch because of course a note is a whole thing, but an item from a reminders list, that's something that's easy for the Apple Watch to pick out. And I love that.
There's also the option to print out your reminders. Some people really like that ability to print them out and make sure that they've checked everything off. So you can do this. Not only can you print it out, but you can change the paper size. So if you wanted to print it out on index cards, for example, say every day you've got your list of things that you want and you're comfortable doing that, then you can also print them out and have them as a physical copy. So when I go shopping, I don't like to have a digital shopping list because I always have to do the dance of opening and back up my phone and then holding my phone in my hand and finding. I like to have a paper list that will then let me, cross everything off as I'm going through and make notes if I need to. And so this is the ability to kind of combine the best of both worlds there, where if I had a shared shopping list with my partner, with the family, I could have it as a physical version, but then go through and update the digital version when I get back to the car. And I also then like that it's sort of a double check, because you may have thought you grabbed everything and checked it off the list, but then oh no, I forgot to get this. You go in and get what you need to get. So that is reminders. And there is on YouTube, I think it's Anthony, youtube.com/hands-on-iOS. And I imagine the short code still works, twit.tv/HOI. Yes. I have a full episode in that show we did, Hands on iOS, about the Reminders app, as well as the Notes app. So you can go back and check both of those. It's episode 31 and episode 32, which cover the Notes app in one case and then Reminders in the other. And there's lots of information in there about sharing and how to get that set up, how to use those different tools if you want some more information about that. Tell us about the next one, Rosemary.
Yeah, I did just want to throw a quick honorable mention in here for shared guides in Maps, because I know quite a few people end up asking us if there's a way to share contacts with each other or addresses of some kind. And contacts are much more difficult to share. And we're not going to go into that today just because there isn't really a good way to do it, to be honest. But there is a great way to share locations. So, for example, if you're all going to be going and meeting up at a particular place to go Christmas shopping or something, then you can actually create a shared guide in Maps. And guides in Maps are something that are overlooked because who knows that there's a guide in Maps. But if you open Maps and then look down at the bottom, then you can see that there's an area to create guides, and you can go ahead and easily create a new guide. Or I've created one already called iOS Today. And I've got some places here in London that actually I was visiting at the weekend. And if I zoom out, then I can just about see these places have been highlighted a bit. And if I zoom in, then I can find some more. And if I tap on one of them, then of course it highlights it for me. But this alone is fine. And I can share an individual location easily enough. And I can do that from any individual location, which, quite useful if you just want to say, okay, everybody meet here. But did you know that you can share a whole guide? Because you can do that. And if you tap on the share at the bottom, I can just tap on you and then say, bam. Oops, we'll need to do a quick little edit point there. I can just share and then say, wow, okay, that's gone. And Mikey, you should have received an invitation to see that guide. And that is really useful because then you can, just add all of these options yourself, all of these places that you want to see. And, then bam, they're all there.
That's very
and it's
cool.
Really useful. Yeah, it's really useful. I really love shared guides. And we'll put a link in the show notes as how to get into guides and everything on Maps, because it's a really powerful feature, which I think people have kind of forgotten about. But it's really useful because this way, there's no way that Uncle Mark is going to go to the wrong place, assuming he's actually using CarPlay this year and doesn't end up in North Wales instead of Cornwall. Yes, they're very different places and it's very difficult to go the wrong way, but somehow Uncle Mark managed it.
Uncle Mark.
Maybe next year he won't. Maybe next year he won't. I mean, it wasn't last year, it was several years ago, but maybe next year. Maybe next year people will get it right.
All right. Let's take a quick break before we come back with some more. I want to tell you, oh man, I want to tell you about Audible. Love to tell you about Audible. This holiday season, it's going to certainly be more special than the last, as we were talking about earlier. It's finally time to gather together and exchange thoughtful gifts with the people you care about. But in the midst of all the holiday excitement, think about giving yourself The gift of an Audible membership. Now is the absolute best time to do it because of the special offer of 60% off your first 3 months. Listen, if I had heard this, I would have hopped on that as quickly as possible if I wasn't already a huge Audible fan and subscriber. 60% off, I am on it. With Audible, you can listen to more of whatever you're into because Audible has it all. That's one of the cool things about Audible. You may have heard about the audiobooks, but it's not just audiobooks. I mean, yeah, you get that unbeatable selection of audiobooks you can't find anywhere else. You also get tons of binge-worthy podcasts and exclusive originals, and they're all available to download or stream. And here's what you get as an Audible member. You can choose one title a month, like the latest bestseller or hottest new release, and it's yours to keep forever. Yes, I remember listening to MacBreak Weekly long time ago. I won't make people feel any certain age, but a long time ago, listening to MacBreak Weekly with an Audible sponsorship and going and subscribing and getting a title. And then letting at the time, my Audible subscription lapse, coming back later on, now that I'm a huge Audible fan, and having all of those titles from before, all right there for me to get. They're yours to keep forever. That's super important. So even if you decide to head somewhere else, you still have those titles. Here's the best part. You also get full access to Audible's streaming library, which is called the Plus catalog. So you can discover your next podcast obsession. You can check that audiobook off your bucket list or get lost in a world of original content from celebrity creators, best-selling authors, and leading experts. It's the kind of stuff you can't hear anywhere else. So you can stream all you want as much as you want. To use your Audible membership, you'll need to download the Audible app. The Audible app is free and can be installed on all smartphones and tablets, as we have talked about here on the show plenty of times. You can get the Audible app very easily in the App Store. I'm currently listening through a series. It is called Schooled in Magic, and I have been listening title after title after title through this series as I do other things. And, that's one of the things that I really like about audiobooks is this is an opportunity to sort of visit another world if you want to. That's why I really like fiction audiobooks personally. A lot of people will tell you, the nonfiction things, yeah, it's a great way to sort of grab bits of information and plug them into your brain. But just think about all the time you spend where your brain is mostly idling, where you are just using your hands, but not necessarily having to focus on that task. It's the perfect time to listen to a title, to get lost in a world and experience things from the point of view of an author. It's so much fun. And that is why I am such a big Audible fan. No matter where you're going or what you're doing this holiday season, you'll always have just the right thing to listen to at your fingertips. Perfect for commuting, at the gym, long road trips, or just cozying up by a fire. Right now, for a limited time, I can't stress that enough, limited time, you need to hop on this, save 60%. 60% on your first 3 months of Audible. That's only $5.95 a month. Give yourself the gift of listening. For more, go to audible.com/iOS today, or we've got a short code for you. Text iOS today to 500-500. That's AUDIBLE.com/iOS today, or text iOS today to 500-500. Thank you, Audible, for sponsoring this week's episode of iOS Today. Rosemary Orchard, I think it's time to talk about how we stay in touch during the holiday season.
Yeah. And of course, we don't just stay in touch throughout the holiday season. We hopefully stay in touch with everybody throughout the year. And one of the features I really love for this, Mikah, is group iMessage, because group iMessage has got so much flexibility. And especially with the new FaceTime options, including FaceTime for Android, it's got better than ever, because let's face it, everybody can talk to each other on FaceTime. I actually had my grandmother call me yesterday because I updated her iPad at the weekend for her, and she wanted to know how some things worked, and she just called me, and it worked perfectly. It was fabulous. And group iMessage is one of the easiest ways to go ahead and share all of this information and, just chat with each other. And so I can see, I invited you to a group with me, myself, and I have a separate iMessage account for testing. So that's how we've got a little group iMessage here. And you've updated
I'll
the
add
picture.
mine.
And yeah, well, you've updated the picture and I can see that, which is great because I've obviously got your contact information. So I've got this little lovely picture of you. But if I'm going ahead and chatting here, of course, I've got the options to send things like my Memoji and things like that because, you've got all the standard iMessage features. But say, for example, things are getting a little rowdy. Well, I can just, swipe across on this and then mute for a little while, which is really useful when, I don't know, somebody, my grandmother, it's always my grandmother. She writes War and Peace in like an iMessage. She doesn't quite understand the difference in length between a message and an email. And so her messages always start with Dear Rosemary, and then end with lots of love,
really
kiss, kiss, kiss. And it's lovely. It's just sometimes I'm there going, you could have just written, thank you. That would have been fine. You could have just written thanks or ta. Any of it's good. But anyway, it's all good. But what I love as well is if I go ahead and I tap on the FaceTime option in the top right, then I can start FaceTime audio or a FaceTime video call. And then this shows up in the chat. So I'm going to try doing this right now. And then fingers crossed. See, I've got it here. We'll have to do a quick edit. But you can see now in the chat history that the FaceTime has appeared. And this is really, really useful. I love this feature so much because you can see that people were chatting and maybe you missed it. You were working or busy doing something else or, cooking probably, considering what kind of time of year it is. And this is so useful to know what's gone on and so on. And because you've got all of these integrations with iMessage apps and so on, you can then do things like share songs with each other or podcasts with each other using whatever your podcast app of choice is. Of course, there's stickers from various different options. So the Apple Developer app has got some extra stickers for people. So if you want a beautiful rainbow hello, then you can replace the item because I've already selected something and that's what's going on there to send it. And I love this, Mikah. It's for me pretty much the best way to communicate with a group of people if I can. Every so often you get an Android user and things go a little crazy. But most of the time it's pretty good. And Android's actually going to be issuing an update in the not too distant future because I don't know if everybody remembers the tap back features in iMessage. Tap back features are really useful to just say, for example, hey, I've seen this and we're good. So you tap and hold on something and then you can, select a thumbs up or a heart. At the moment this goes through on Android phones and it sends a text message and says that somebody sent thumbs up, and sometimes you end up with these bouncing back multiple times and it looks very weird. Android's actually issuing an update for that in the not too distant future. So I'm crossing my fingers that we'll get that in time for the holidays, because this feature, being able to, reply with just a non-verbal, yep, thumbs up, I've seen it, we're good. You don't need to say anything. I love that. I love that so much. But don't forget, people, of course, you can also send with effects. So tap and hold on your send icon and you can send with invisible ink or loudly or with a slam, or you've got some other fabulous effects like the screen or spotlight or balloons and confetti. Some of these appear automatically. So if you send somebody a message that says congratulations, you get confetti. But if you want to add these to an everyday message, by all means, go ahead. Just bear in mind, a little too many of them can be slightly frustrating for the other people involved.
Yeah, the worst thing, honestly, is when you have a family member who sends to everyone like a Happy Thanksgiving or Merry Christmas message, and then you have 15 group people in the group chat who are not in your contacts at all. So now not only has your phone number been shared with all of these people who you don't know, but you also have all of these unknown people sending messages. And then occasionally some of them will be Android users. So then you'll, even if you try to remove yourself from the group, then they still end up texting you back and saying, thanks. That gets so obnoxious. So, just be mindful with your group messages. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, honestly, Mikah, I think for that particular scenario, we need to introduce these people to shortcuts because they can send an individual message to each person that they want to send that lovely Merry Christmas, Happy Thanksgiving, Happy New Year, whatever it is to, and it will be an individual message. And that would just pretty much solve all of our problems. So let's see if I could, if we've got time for that in Shortcuts Corner today. If
that
not,
might be
then
a great
we'll save
one.
it for next week.
A mail merge, but for shortcuts. All right, let's move on. We want to talk a little bit about shared calendaring. Apple makes this very easy on iOS. In fact, I have my podcast calendar is shared with my partner so that, because as another person who lives in the household, he's aware, should I be in the middle of a show or something like that? And it is very easy. Apple has a guide that we'll link to that shows you how to share a calendar on iCloud. It's as simple as launching the calendar app, tapping on the calendars button in the bottom of the calendars app. And I'm just trying to find one that doesn't have a bunch of information. And then let's say choosing one of them from the list. And here, now I can switch to my screen, and then underneath, so you tap the little eye information icon that's next to the calendar in that list, and then you choose shared with, add person. When you tap add person, then it will pop up the contacts. You can select the contact that you want. They get added to that list. They're notified. They can choose to add the calendar to their calendar app and be able to access that and view what's on the screen. So very simple to do. And that way, if you are planning, a multi-day outing or a multi-day event, again, you got to get in your hellos and your goodbyes. So grandma and grandpa come into town on this day. They leave on this day. Uncle and aunt, whomever, leave on this day. Cousin and cousin, who, I'll leave on this day. You get all of that information in the shared calendar that everybody's aware of. I also like to have a shared calendar that just has birthdays across the entire family, be it, close siblings and everybody who's very near, but then also folks who are kind of farther away in terms of relations. So that can be very handy to have all of that information available. I personally use the Fantastical calendar app as my calendar app of choice. It's available to download for free. The premium version is $4.99 a month or $40 a year. Both are steals for this app. It is a fantastic app that has so much built-in so many built-in features and functionality, and it's very helpful for setting up tasks and making sure you've got everything ready to go when it comes time. I live and die by my calendar personally. So every possible thing that I can put into my calendar goes into my calendar to make sure that I've got everything good to go. I don't go as far as having, eat at this time on my calendar. I'm not quite military about it, but just sort of short of military planning is kind of where I am with my calendar. So that is why I choose to use Fantastical. But you can just use the default app if you want to.
I do just want to take a moment to do a quick mention of a great feature I love in Fantastical, which is the calendar sets, because this is so good. This is how I work with my calendar, because you have different calendar sets and they're groups of calendars. I'm not going to switch because unfortunately I've got some personal information that I can't get rid of in some of these. But by switching between calendar sets, say, for example, you and I, Micah, had a shared calendar. I could include that very easily in some things and then exclude it in others. So things like that birthday calendar that you talked about, my family's got one of those. I've got it excluded from almost every view. But when I'm doing my monthly planning, then I make sure that one's included. And the calendar sets are a fabulous way to do that. So I am also a big Fantastical fan. That said, my parents perfectly happy with the built-in calendar app on Mac and iOS, and they love it and they've got no problems with it. So give it a try if you are looking for something more powerful, but don't feel like you're missing out if you've got everything you need with the built-in calendar app.
Now, what if I want to send cards out to my family members, and I want to make sure that I've got all of, or not even just family members, but family members, friends, et cetera, and I want to make sure I've got all the information gathered properly. Is there a way to set that up so that I know that I'm mailing things to the right people?
Yeah, so there kind of is. And contacts, on iOS features something called groups. However, groups in the native contacts app on iOS, they're kind of difficult to work with / almost impossible. which is really unfortunate. But the really good news is, Micah, there's this great app. And we just talked about Fantastical. Well, the makers of Fantastical are FlexiBits. FlexiBits have got another app as well, which if you pay for Fantastical, you've got included for free. Though, actually, you can download this app for free and give it a try. And it will work. It's really good. This is CardHop. And what I like about CardHop, first of all, is you've got an option. These are all fake contacts, by the way, for anybody who's worrying at home, where you can just type and then it works like Spotlight. So if I typed in call Micah, it would come up with you, Micah, and your phone number and give me the option to call you and just tap to call you, which I like. But what I want to talk about here is not that feature. It's if you tap on the all contacts at the top left, look at that. I've got groups of contacts and I've got one here called Christmas. And I've added a whole bunch of people to this Christmas list because what you can do is if you want to add somebody to your Christmas list, so I'm going to add Apple to my Christmas list because that's a really good option to do there. So you can just go ahead and put them in your Christmas list and you're good. I've, of course, managed to do that incorrectly. If you do that, then you can tap on groups and there we go. And now I can pop them in the Christmas list. So you just tap and hold on a contact to pop them in the list. And then you've got a whole list of people, which can work with things like label printers, if you've got one of those to print address labels, things like that, or just a good old fashioned, I'll go through the list and have a look and see who I was going to send a card to this year. Yeah, it works really well. If you are looking for more powerful contacts management on iOS, CardHop is the way to do that for sure. Yeah, that's my recommendation. I don't know if you've got one, but this is my go-to.
No, that was, that's absolutely. CardHop is magical. Now, if you subscribe to Fantastical Premium, then you also get CardHop along with it. So it's kind of a no-brainer too. If you even need just slightly more magic in your calendaring, get Fantastical Premium, and then you just get CardHop to go along with it, and suddenly now both your calendar and your contacts are made magic by the folks at FlexiBits. I'm gonna have to reach out to them sometime soon and see if we can't have them on the show to talk about the apps that they make, because I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I know some of the people working at FlexiBits, and they're actually just genuinely lovely people as well. I should also mention that another feature of CardHop I didn't demo, but I'll just mention is if somebody gives you an address as a block of text, in contacts, Mike, you've got all these different fields, like, the street name and then the county or the state and country and all of that sort of thing. Well, usually if somebody gives you a block of text, you're going to have to copy and paste it. You're going to have to put it somewhere else and select the bits you want. Not with CardHop. You just paste the whole thing into that magic search bar that can, you can type call Micah into, and it would, give you the option to call Micah. You paste an entire address in there, it parses it out and figures out which parts of the address it belongs to. It is magical. And especially, this time of year where people are going, oh yeah, do you have so-and-so's address? Sure, paste it. Thanks. Paste it into CardHop and you will have a nicely formatted address in your contacts.
Very nice. All right. Now comes the time where we ask ourselves, how much time do I have to get everything ready and prepared for someone to get to the house and walk in? Because here's what happens is you text your family members and you say, 2 days before the event, this is the time, you should be here. And then it gets closer to the event, and you sort of put some things off. You don't quite get everything ready how you want to before people arrive. And then you are like, that's okay. I've got until, say, you're having everybody come over at 11 a.m. And it's 10:30 and you're like, oh, I've got time. And then you scramble to try to get everything ready. And then it's 11 a.m. and people still aren't there because everybody shows up late, because that's just how it works most of the time. Occasionally there are a few people in the family who show up at the time that you set, but for the most part, people
or even early.
Later.
And there's always one person that turns up early, right? And it's really awkward because they're not the person that you would genuinely let help you out with the things that need to be done.
Exactly. So you're like, I guess go sit in the other room. I don't know. Anyway, how do we keep track of that to know where people are and if they're actually on their way when they say they're just around the corner? How do we go about making sure we know kind of what we need to plan for, what we don't?
Well, first of all, if you're expecting my dad anywhere, add 15 to 30 minutes to the estimated arrival time, and you'll probably be in the right ballpark. But for everybody else, actually, even including my dad, you can use Find My, at least on iOS. And I love Find My. It's enabled by default if you are part of a family together, the iCloud family. We talked about that recently on the show. And so if you're part of an iCloud family, by default, it enables sharing. So if you and I, Michael, were part of a family, my location would be automatically shared with you. Well, you can also just share your location for an hour or until the end of the day with other people. And I really like this because not only can I share my location with somebody, but it then prompts them to share their location back with me. And this is kind of one of those things where you might think, but why would I share my location with people? They're coming to me. Well, by sharing your location with them, it prompts them in messages and the Find My app to share their location right back with you for the same period of time, which is really nice. But once you've done that, then extra bonus, you can have notifications when people are arriving. Now, this is really difficult to demo without revealing a whole bunch of private information like people's addresses and current locations and so on, unfortunately. But if you tap on somebody in Find My, then you can set up a notification. Now, this is going to notify them that you've set it up, but that's okay. It's a one-time notification, and then you can say, notify when arriving at my location. Or select a specific address if you want. But then you've got a circle and you can drag it out and shrink it down to set a wider range or radius. And you can set two kinds of notifications for somebody leaving and for somebody arriving at. Now, this is really, really useful, but there is a little caveat I should mention. If you set up a notification, for example, for where Mikah leaves home to come over to mine for Thanksgiving, good luck, Mikah. I'm not quite sure how the driving's going to go for that, but I think you might need like water skis or something. I'm not sure. But, say I set that up. I then can't go and set up another notification for when Mikah arrives here, because it will actually remove the first one. And this isn't completely obvious. So I just wanted to warn people of that. The latest notification that you have set up is the one that takes precedence. So for this, ideally, if people are traveling as a group, what I'll do is I'll set up a notification for when my dad leaves home and then for when my mom is arriving here. And this way I know when they've left and I know when they're arriving because they're together. Now, obviously, this doesn't work for everybody. Not everybody conveniently travels in twos for this sort of thing. But what you can do is after somebody's left, pop back into Find My and set up another notification for when they're arriving, and assuming that you've got the time to do so. If they live just around the corner, maybe not. But yes, that's what you can do with that. And I have to say, Find My and those notifications are really good. And it's also really nice to have the recurring notifications for certain family members. So whenever my dad comes here, it actually notifies me. And he set that up in Find My on his device, but I could set it up in Find My and it would ask him for confirmation because it's for every time he comes here. It's not just a one-off. And that's really useful. And I've set it up the other way. So when I arrive at my parents' house, they both get a push notification to say that I've arrived.
Very nice. Yes. I love this whole thing. Find My and the way that it's built in with family members and locations and be it, making sure that someone's arriving in maps with the ETA. All of those features make it so handy and helpful when you are trying to make sure that somebody made it there. And also, I got to say, particularly in locations where the weather is a concern, it is very nice to know, again, uncle and aunt are not on the side of the highway because they, slid on the road because of the snow or what have you. That, okay, they're still on their way. They're just delayed because everybody's driving slower and safer. I don't have to be full of anxiety the whole time waiting for them to come.
Yes. I should actually mention that there's a CarPlay feature. If you start navigating to an address, then there's a button that pops up on screen that says share ETA, and you can then share your ETA with somebody else or multiple other people. And that is a really nice feature when you're traveling, because then you can have a notification when somebody gets within a radius, but you can also see their ETA, and that does update, which is really nice.
It'll
I love
tell
the fact
you if it's going to take longer for them to arrive, which is fantastic. Then you can pop in the app and see sort of where they are in what's going on. Those features
and you can
are
share
so
the ETA.
great.
Yeah, you can share ETA actually without sharing your location with somebody, which is quite nice because then they still know when you're going to get somewhere, but you don't have to actually share your location with somebody. Which, well, I mean, from CarPlay, there's not an easy way to say that you want to share your location with somebody, but being able to share your ETA whilst driving and doing so safely, I like that. That's really good.
Agreed. All right, we're going to take another quick break. We'll come back with just a few more tips before we head into the news and the rest of the show. But I got to tell you, I couldn't be more pleased about the next sponsor of the show here today. Today's episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Is something preventing you from achieving your goals? Do you know what interferes with your happiness? Well, you should check out betterhelp.com/iOS. I was able to check out betterhelp.com, went to the site, signed up for an account, and it starts by asking you some questions about what kind of help you might be looking for. It then asks you if you've ever done any kind of therapy, then you will probably be familiar with some of the questions that they ask because they are the standard questions for different mental health concerns, anxiety, depression, etc. And then you have some information that you fill in to kind of give a little bit of information, a little bit of knowledge about kind of what you're looking for, what you're seeking out. At that point, you are then given the opportunity to get matched with the best therapist for you. So the therapists can go and see, okay, here's what this person's looking for. Here's what this person needs. I, as the therapist, think that I am going to be able to help that person and then able to connect with you. So I popped in my information. I got connected with a therapist who sort of put forth the pitch, kind of let me know, hey, I'd like to help you. Here's what you need to know about me. She had lots of information. She had some reviews of former patients and had, all the whole kit and caboodle of what I needed to know about her. And I was, going through reading and seeing the different things that the qualifications, et cetera. And immediately was like, yep, selected her and then set up my first call with her. And she was incredible. It was a fantastic experience. I got to tell you, there's if you've ever done therapy before, it can be very difficult sort of auditioning therapists to try to find out someone who can help you, to try to find a counselor who's going to actually be able to help you. But this sort of auditioning process that's just built into BetterHelp by default is what made this so magical, made this so special, and made it so that this person that I connected with was right for me. In fact, I got to tell you, in the first chat, she started talking about quantum entanglement. And immediately I was like, you and I are going to get along. It was fantastic. Anyway, BetterHelp will assess your needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist. You can connect in a safe and private online environment, and it's so convenient. You can start communicating in under 48 hours. That's how it worked for me. It was, I think, even less than 24 hours before I was connected with the therapist that I spoke to. It's not a crisis line. It's not self-help. It's professional counseling done securely online. You can send a message to your counselor anytime. This is the other super cool thing about it. You have the opportunity to, I could right now, if I wanted to, in the middle of this, I go in and I say, I'm feeling a little anxious about this ad read I'm doing right now. Do you have any thoughts on how I could sort of handle what's going on? And my therapist could get back to me within, however long it takes to let me know. You're going to get timely and thoughtful responses. Plus, you can schedule weekly video or phone sessions, all without ever having to sit in an uncomfortable waiting room. So that's what I did. I each week have scheduled an appointment to speak with the therapist that I am speaking with. And in between those times, I'm able to message that therapist at any time. And when the therapist is on the platform, then she's been able to get back to me. BetterHelp is committed to facilitating great therapeutic matches, so they make it easy and free to change counselors if needed. So if we didn't start talking about quantum mechanics in the first meeting, and I felt like, ooh, not really right for me, I could have changed very easily to a new therapist. And that makes it more affordable than traditional offline counseling. And also, this is very neat, you may qualify for financial aid. There is financial aid that's available. The service is available for clients worldwide, and you can find the particular expertise you need online. So you don't have to limit yourself to the counselors that are located near you. You'll find licensed professional counselors who are specialized in depression, stress, anxiety, relationships, sleeping, trauma, anger, family conflicts, LGBTQ matters, grief, self-esteem. Anything you share is confidential. It's convenient, it's professional, and it's affordable. You can check out the testimonials posted daily on the site. In fact, so many people have been using BetterHelp that they are recruiting additional counselors in all 50 states. Look, we'd like for you to start living a happier life today. And so as a listener of this show, you are going to get 10% off your first month by visiting our sponsor at BetterHelp.com/iOS. You can join more than 1 million people who have taken charge of their mental health. Again, that's BetterHelp, BetterHelp.com/iOS. BetterHelp, thank you so much for sponsoring this week's episode. Thank you for the service that you provide. And thank you to the counselor I was connected with who is so awesome. She's great. We are just pumped to have BetterHelp as a sponsor on the network. So cool. So cool. All right, let's head back to the show to talk about our next topic. I guess this next one is for when the family all gets together and you are trying to watch a show in the sort of shared space and people are being loud, but you want to hear what's going on, I don't know, the football game. Is that what people do on Thanksgiving? They watch football?
I have
Macy's
no idea.
Thanksgiving
I was
Day parade.
Films. Yeah,
films,
whatever
what have you.
Yeah. So just in case people missed the fact that you can do this, you can set up a HomePod or stereo pair of HomePod or stereo pair of HomePod minis as the default output for your Apple TV. And this is something that is quite easy to do, and you can go ahead and do it. You can do it as a one-off, or you can do it as a permanent setup. And this is really great if you just want to have a different audio experience. If you only got the built-in speakers on the TV, they usually point backwards, which is not the greatest of experiences when you're sitting in front of the screen. If you're sitting behind the screen, I'm sure it sounds great, but then you can't see it. So I'm not quite sure why everything works like that. I'm guessing because TVs are so skinny nowadays. But either way, if you want to try and improve your sound quality, don't forget you can borrow HomePods from other parts of the house, bring them into your living room or your den, wherever it is that you're watching, and then you can separate the stereo pair afterwards and put them back where they usually are. And this is, quite a useful feature. And the other thing I wanted to mention, actually, Mikah, is if you've got HomePods, and you've got family members coming over for the holiday, and maybe a couple of them are pranksters, or maybe they just don't really understand what they're doing, you can turn off the magic incantation to talk to HomePods. Now, this will be somewhat frustrating for you and the family members you live with, but it means that grandma's not accidentally going to set an alarm for 3 o'clock in the morning and wake everybody up. And so you can do this in the Home app, actually, for your HomePod. And I'm just going to pop open the Home app quickly and show people how you can do that. There we go. I've got my Home app open. Of course, there we go. Wonderful. So in the Home app, you need to find your HomePod or a pair of HomePods, whatever it is, and tap and hold on it. And then you can go down to settings. And then here in the settings, you can turn off this listen for Hey Apple lady is what I'll say, because otherwise I might trick everybody's HomePods at home. And you can turn that off. You can also turn off touch and hold. And because if you touch and hold on the top of a HomePod, then it will also listen. And you can turn off both of those. And that can be quite useful, especially touch and hold. I found toddlers love touching and holding because it lights up. So you could turn off the light if you wanted. Just remember that you're going to want to re-enable these after everybody's gone home. But the other thing is, Micah, what is the worst thing about holidays and your alarm clock going off? Maybe you didn't intend for your alarm clock to go off.
You're like, I wanted to sleep. I need the sleep to handle all of this
exactly.
socializing I'm going to be doing.
Exactly. And don't forget, you may have alarm set on your HomePod So again, in the same place in the HomePod, in the Home app, you can actually look at all of your alarms and you can delete them by swiping on them if you want, or you can just toggle them off. And that's really useful. You can also see timers that you've got running here. So if a timer maybe somehow magically the wrong HomePod heard you, the one that's out in the den heard you, even though you were talking to the one in the kitchen, you can see the timer there to get that information. But there's actually another way that you can turn off an alarm just for the next day. And I think some people may have forgotten that you can do this, because in the clock app, and it also appears on the lock screen from time to time as a suggestion, if you look under alarms, you can tap change on your alarm, and then you can go ahead and change it. So say, for example, tomorrow I want to get up at 4:40. I'm going to have to change this back, because otherwise I'm going to get woken up at 4:40 tomorrow, Micah. If you tap done, then you can change the next alarm only, or you can change your schedule. And that's really good for, I have to get up early for tomorrow, but I don't want to usually get up early, or I don't need to get up tomorrow. I'll cancel that, because you can also just turn it off, of course. And that is quite useful. I'm going to tap cancel there, and you can see it's gone back and set itself back. But when you are in the sleep focus mode, then it will pop up on the home screen as well. And you can just turn it off for the next day, because I don't want to be woken up by an alarm on a holiday if I can avoid it. But of course, don't forget, if you've got HomeKit automations to turn on lights at certain times of the morning, you may want to go in and turn those off too. And you can just go into the app and just toggle the automation off. And then, of course, afterwards, you'll need to go in and toggle it back on. Unfortunately, HomeKit does not have a concept of holidays or not working today or whatever it is. But other than that, it's pretty darn good.
I am glad that you mentioned all of those things. Very good tips to make sure that you are ready for the holidays. Folks, those are some ways to prepare yourself for the holidays, to make sure that everybody's on the same page using a lot of the built-in apps for iOS, a few third-party apps that we really think are special. But now it is time to move on to the news. And this first one is very fascinating. Tile, which makes a bunch of trackers. These are, Bluetooth LE trackers that let you clip them to different items and make sure you always know where those items are, is actually going to be acquired by the company Life360. If you're a parent, not if you're a PPA, if you are a parent, you may be familiar with the company Life360. It is a very popular app, particularly for parents who are trying to make sure that their kids, to know where their kids are in particular. It is this app then service that lets you not only GPS monitor where your children are, but also can give you information about the battery level of the phone, so that you know, okay, the phone is about to die. You need to plug it in and make sure that it's charged, and all sorts of other things. You can set up kind of those GPS bubbles to say, send me a notification if this phone leaves this certain area, et cetera, et cetera. Life360 has gotten dinged in the past for being overly aggressive in its ability to track different phones. And certainly, that's an argument that exists independently of this. But it is fascinating that Life360 is acquiring Tile. And it's very easy to figure out kind of what that future looks like, where Life360 has these beacons that you can use as part of a huge network to be able to keep track of items and people who you are in charge of keeping track of.
Yes. Yeah. So for people who don't remember, this is what a Tile looks like. For comparison, I do have an AirTag right here attached to my AirPods Pro. I've left it there, Micah, because it turns out the speaker in the AirPods Pro is not great for finding them when you've lost the case. So I left that one attached. But yeah, these are quite good. I have seen Life360 often criticized by parents who could, by their children, be seen as quite overbearing. So it's interesting that Tile have gone with this, and I'm hoping everything works out for them. I do know some families who are cross-platform families, iOS and Android, use Life360 as an easy way to continue sharing their location pretty much permanently with each other, much like you could with Find My if you were an all Apple family. So hopefully this works out well for everybody involved. But yeah, I guess we're going to have to wait and see.
We will. And then we wanted to talk about the self-service repair program that Apple announced. Was that last week?
Yes.
It is a program that lets folks repair their own devices. So first, you have to understand kind of how it worked up to this point. I have repaired a number of iPhones for different family members and some MacBooks for a few people and some other devices. And it tended a really old Kindle I repaired for myself. And it tended to be that the way that you would do this, the way that I did it, was by going to a site called iFixit and finding the part that I needed and buying that part, and in some cases a whole repair or replacement kit, having it shipped to me, and then using that along with the guides that iFixit put together to be able to repair or replace the screen or replace the battery or what have you. The most involved repair was an old school MacBook Pro where I had to basically take the whole thing apart in order to get to the battery and use a special solvent to remove the battery from the case, install the new one, and then put the whole thing back together again. Quite trying. And so some people, I was really interested to see how quickly folks kind of poo-pooed this and how often it was the case that these folks are not being mindful necessarily of their location and how that impacts their ability to have repairs or fixes. I used to live in a place where it would have taken me 3 hours there and 3 hours back to get to the nearest Apple store. And so in that case, it was much easier for me, a person who felt skilled and who felt I was skilled enough and was comfortable enough doing so, to fix these things myself. And at that time, you'd have to do it again through kind of a third-party way, which didn't necessarily mean that you were getting, the best parts available. You could also, Apple had had independent repair program where you sign up and you have to sort of follow all these different rules, and then Apple kind of blessed and said, hey, you get access to the internal documentation and also access to the parts that you need to be able to fix these things. Basically, that is now going to be made available to individuals. So I, as an individual, the way that this would look is that, let's say, God forbid, I crack my iPhone screen. This is starting with iPhone 12, iPhone 13, and will expand to include more things in the future. I crack my iPhone screen. I can go on to, this starts in the coming year, I can go on to Apple's site and say, oh, I cracked my screen. Apple will then show you the repair manual to show you what the steps are going to take to fix it. And then you can say, holy moly, I don't feel comfortable doing that. Let's schedule a time with a repair person. Or, you know what? I'm feeling pretty good about this. You say yes. Then Apple lets you buy the part. You buy the display and have it sent to you. And then you get access to that manual that shows you how to go through the steps. And you get access to the part. And you can send in the cracked screen that you have for a little bit of money back. So they will take that screen, which is, I think, the coolest part of this, because iFixit wasn't taking my cracked screen afterward. And so you do get to recoup a little bit of the cost in doing this thing. Now, people who have AppleCare Plus and who are near an Apple store, of course, would rather just take it in because it's probably going to cost you fewer dollars, and you'll be able to get the thing repaired without you having to do anything at all. But for people who live in places where they're not near an Apple store or don't trust the local repair body or what have you, and they feel comfortable doing so, I think this is a really cool feature. Also, as a person who's just curious, I really want access to these internal repair manuals. So I'm looking forward to that part of it as well.
Yes. Yeah. So I used to live in Vienna in Austria, and it's only relatively recently that Austria got an Apple store. Not Vienna, Austria, the entire country. There were Apple authorized service providers, but if you went to them, they kind of had to send it off half the time. I remember on my work Mac, before the Apple store opened, the SSD failed, and it took, I think, 4 weeks for me to get the Mac back in the end. It took so long. I'm glad that this is going to be a possibility for those people who don't have easy access to Apple stores, or who are just interested in doing it themselves.
Agreed. Yeah. Can't wait for this to be available. I will definitely be making use of it. and seeing how that works.
Before we dive too much into Shortcuts Corner, I do want to mention twinkly lights because I know people are very interested in smart home lighting and so on. And I've been asked by lots of people recently, what smart Christmas decorations do you recommend? Twinkly lights are definitely my recommendation, and they now have HomeKit support. So that is my recommendation. They've been updated to have HomeKit support. The app update shipped last week. There's a firmware update where you can install HomeKit support on your twinkly lights. And so that is fabulous. I love mine. They're very pretty, very exciting. You can do all sorts of colors and everything. After you put the lights up, you scan it with your phone and you set it up, and then you can literally draw on your tree and color very specific parts or whatever it is that you've put the lights on. I love it. So I just wanted to make a quick mention that now has HomeKit support. It's great.
That's awesome. All right, folks, I can hear the music. It is time to head into Shortcuts Corner. Ba-dum-bum. All right, we've got a Shortcuts Corner request. We will have, of course, we've got so many of them. We'll get to more next week. But the one we want to cover this week is from Simon. Simon writes in, I would like my iPhone to automatically disable airplane mode when I leave my home by either detecting when it disconnects from my Wi-Fi or via location. When I return home, I want it to do the reverse. I have very poor cell service at my home. The iPhone always searches for service, which kills the battery quite quickly. I've created 2 shortcuts on my home screen to do these actions, but I would love to automate it without user interaction. Thank you for your help and love the show. Simon in Seattle. Simon, I'm hoping we can help you. I know these things get a little tough because of the way that airplane mode works, first of all, and also some of these features are sort of harder for different apps to grab and be able to read. Mm-hmm. But maybe Rosemary has a solution?
Yes, I do. I do just want to quickly start with showing people in the Shortcuts app under the automations. If you look at Arrive and then you set something up, there isn't the option to turn off Ask Before Running here, which means that both arriving and leaving and before you commute aren't going to work for this, unfortunately. And it's the same case with Wi-Fi. You can connect to a Wi-Fi network, but you then still have to be prompted to run your shortcut. So that's not going to work for Simon. So I had a couple of thoughts about this. First of all, if Simon goes places with his car most of the time, then he could use connecting to and disconnecting from CarPlay to check his location and then turn on airplane mode or turn it off. That was my first thought. And then, Micah, I had an idea because there's focus modes. And focus modes can automatically enable and disable at locations. And so I had a little bit of a think and I went into the focus mode settings and I thought, well, maybe we can modify this focus mode option to enhance things a little bit. So what you can do is for a focus mode, you can say turn it on automatically. For example, at a location when I leave work or something. I'm just going to do this for the time being, just because it's not that important what precisely the trigger is here, because now this is going to enable and disable automatically. Now, if you use a location-based location-based trigger for this, then it will do it based on your location, and that happens entirely automatically in the background. And then what you can do is in Shortcuts, you can actually use when your focus mode is turned on to turn on airplane mode, and then when it's turned off to turn off airplane mode. And that is what I would do there, Simon. That's what I would do. You could even create a custom focus mode called airplane mode. The other thing is if you don't want to leave your focus mode enabled, I'll go back to turning this on and just demo. So you would use the airplane mode here. If I search for Surplane, of course, it won't come up. But if I set airplane mode on, then you can actually change your focus mode and set your focus mode back to off afterwards. And so you can say, so this is my personal one. So if my personal focus mode turns on, turn airplane mode on, and then turn my personal focus mode off. You don't have to leave it enabled. And then, of course, the trick is make sure you disable Ask Before Running, and then it will be entirely automatic. And that is probably how I would work around that problem, Simon. So fingers crossed this works for you and it saves your battery life. Don't forget to enable Wi-Fi calling though, because if you forget to enable Wi-Fi calling, you're not going to get any calls at home. But I'm pretty certain if you've got that bad a cell service, then you will remember that Wi-Fi calling is a thing. But it is a very useful feature. I'd recommend everybody have it enabled.
I agree. Yes. So we've included a link so that you can figure out how to turn that on to help you out. But it's good to know that there is a way. We'll have more shortcuts next week, including an option to independently send messages to family members for the holiday season instead of sending a group message. Let's move on to feedback and questions. Richard writes in, you have a really great show. I've been a podcast listener for years. Thank you, Richard. Several years back, someone on your iOS Today show mentioned the Notobot app. You could open the app, jot down something you wanted to remember, and then swipe across the screen, and an email would be sent to your email for later use. It was a terrific app. I just upgraded to an iPhone 13 Pro, and the Notobot app didn't transfer over, and the App Store says it's no longer available. Big bummer. 2 questions. Is Notobot really gone forever? If so, is there another app providing the same function? Thank you for your help, Richard. Richard, first of all, that is a really cool app. And I like the idea of that is so great. That is kind of one of the, I text myself to remind myself of things all the time. So having something that sends me an email, if I were to use email a lot, that also would be great. So it does seem, sometimes apps do disappear after a period of time. The developer will have removed it, and then they stay for people who have purchased or downloaded the app for quite a while, and then eventually go away from there as well. And it seems like this is one of those that's done that, which is unfortunate, but true.
Yes. However, I have 2 alternatives for you, Richard. First of all, as a recommendation, actually, from John Siracusa from the Accidental Tech podcast. He uses an app called Mailo, which is $2.99, and its entire purpose is to send you an email. It emails you, and that's it. It works from the share sheet, and when you open it, you can type, and then you hit send, and it sends your email, and that's it. It's very simple to set up. Pretty easy to use, and it's only $2.99. However, I did think, Mikah, that you might be intrigued by this little idea of sharing things with yourself, and I thought maybe some of our other listeners might be, and they might want to try it for free. So I've made a little shortcut that can do the same thing, where you can share something to a shortcut and then it'll just email it to you. Now you can modify this, and I will actually show people how to modify this. I didn't do it on purpose because I wanted to encourage people to take a look at this and see if they can play with shortcuts for themselves, because I think some people are scared of playing with shortcuts, and they shouldn't be. So I have my shortcut open here. It's called Mail to Self. There's a link in the show notes for everybody. And essentially it accepts things from the share sheet, and then it gets the name of what it is that you shared, and then it sends it off to yourself. Now, when you import this shortcut for the first time, it's going to ask you for your email address. Don't worry, that stays on your phone. It's in shortcuts. It doesn't come out to us or indeed anybody else. It's just there in the shortcut. So it will then send everything to you, and it's using the Mail app to do this. But Mikah, what if you run the shortcut with nothing in there? It's just going to try and send you a blank email. That's not what we want. So I want people to look here at the top in the share sheet, here where it says, if there's no input, continue. Tap on your continue, and then say, ask for. And then you can choose what it is. Now, you're probably going to want text, right? If you're trying to just send something to yourself as a quick note, then you're probably going to want text. So I changed that to text, and there we go. The little bit of magic sauce that makes this work, by the way, for the curious people, is if you expand this, then there's an option to toggle off show compose sheet, and that means that the email just gets sent in the background, and that's how that works. So there we go. There's 2 options for you, Richard. Fingers crossed, at least one of them hits the spot.
Yes, that's fantastic. Alan writes in, thank you for the suggestion to stop unwanted music playing in my car. I have been plagued for years hearing Ah Ah Shoo by Hunhur 2. Never heard of it. It's Tuvalu throat singing. Anyway, it was first alphabetically in my library, but no longer. Now, a very fine song is. Can't wait to get in my car and try it. Thanks, Alan. Alan, I'm so glad we solved this problem for you. Just the other day, I needed to keep the the audio connection running on my iPad because I didn't want the Bluetooth headphone. I was waiting for a call, and so I'd connected my Bluetooth headphones to my iPad mini, but I didn't want to listen to anything from it because I was already listening to something in my other ear from my phone. So I wanted to keep listening to what I was listening to on my phone, but I didn't want the Bluetooth headphones to turn off while they were connected to the iPad mini. So that way, when the person called, it was immediately available and I could hit start. So I used that A Very Fine Song to play in the background on repeat to keep that audio connection going so that the Bluetooth headphones didn't turn off until it was time for the call. So that song is good for multiple things. But if people are wondering what we're talking about here, I think it was just last week or maybe 2 weeks ago. In any case, someone wrote in asking for help with a problem where when they would get in their car infotainment system would automatically start playing a song, even if they were listening to a podcast, even if they were doing something else, and they wanted it to just continue playing what they were listening to. Unfortunately, there are a lot of systems that don't let you do that. They just start playing the first song in your music library. And so there was some clever person who created a song that has 4 of the letter A at the beginning. So that way, alphabetically, it just keeps getting shoved up to the top. And that means that when you plugged in, it would automatically start playing that song. That song has no sound in it. And that way you have plenty of time to actually change it to what you want to listen to instead of the automatic play of the first song as the infotainment system does. So, Alan, I'm glad we could be of service there and that you've got this figured out.
Escape from the Tuvalu for throat singing. Even if you're a big fan of it, I'm sure after years of being plagued by it being the first song that plays every time you start your car, you might appreciate the break.
Indeed. All right, folks, we're going to take another quick break before we come back with our app caps. I want to tell you about Coinbase, who are bringing you this episode of iOS Today. If you've been looking to level up your financial portfolio, well, it's always good to diversify. You've probably heard that. Diversify. Well, how do you do that? Well, why not think about cryptocurrency? It's backed by the world's leading investors. It's Coinbase, and it keeps your portfolio safe and secure while adding crypto into your mix. Coinbase offers a trusted and easy-to-use platform to buy, sell, and spend cryptocurrency. They support the most popular digital currencies on the market and make them accessible to everyone. They offer portfolio management and protection, learning resources, and a mobile app so you can trade securely and monitor your crypto all in one place. Millions of people in more than 100 countries trust Coinbase with their digital assets. Whether you're looking to diversify, just getting started, or searching for a better way to access crypto markets, well, start today with Coinbase. For a limited time, new users can get $10 in free Bitcoin when you sign up today at coinbase.com/iOS. Sign up at coinbase.com/iOS for $10 in free Bitcoin. This offer is for a limited time only, so be sure to sign up today. That's coinbase.com/iOS. Alrighty, folks, it's time to head into shortcuts. Cool. Nope, that's not what we're heading into. Alrighty, folks, it's time to head into app caps. This is the part of the show where we wear silly caps atop our heads to honor our app or gadget picks of the week. These are the apps or gadgets we're using now, or maybe have been using for a while, that we want to share with all of you because we think they are so great. Rosemary Orchard, tell me about the cap atop your head and your pick of the week.
Well, the cap atop of my head, Mikah, is one of my fabulous summer hats because it turns out I have a lot more summer hats than winter hats. And also, when you're indoors and it's toasty warm, you don't really want to be wearing a winter hat in winter inside because it's just too warm. So I've gone for the summer hat again. It's straw. It's got a pink ribbon. It's got a blue flower. It's nice. It's elegant. It works. And honestly, that summarizes my app today. My app today is Just Timers. And if you're going, wait, what is this app? It's just timers. lots of timers. But what I love about Just Timers is you can have multiple timers on the go and you can just create them ad hoc and use them. And you can also just kind of start timers whenever it suits you and then have another one running at the same time if you need to. So if it takes me 15 minutes for my nail polish to dry and then I start something else, which is going to take a little while to do as well, I can start another timer for that. And both of them will keep running in sync. And of course, if I then, I don't know, smudge a nail and I wipe the polish off and I do it again, then I can hit restart really easily. And even when I'm painting my nails, I can still do that. That's pretty easy to do. But where Just Timers really excels is aside from the shortcuts integration, which of course it has, is it also has Apple Watch integration. So I'm just going to use the camera here on my on my iPhone to show you my Apple Watch. And I've got Just Timers set as a complication. And here what I can do is, oh, look, that timer's still running. And actually, if I pause it here and then I immediately just pop back, it's been paused. And this is one of the features I love. It does work instantly between the two devices. It's a little difficult to demonstrate without showing you both screens at once. But you get the idea. But I love the fact that I have these here and, I can easily just pop in and go, yep, I'm going to run that timer. And it works. But not only do you have, of course, your running timers, and I'm just going to pause them and reset them because, of course, if you reset them, it stops them. Inside of settings, you have some extra options, and this is what makes it even better. So you've got prevent auto lock, and I've got this set to only active timers. So once all of my timers are stopped, then my phone can auto lock again. But you can change this to always. So if the app is open, don't let your phone automatically lock, or never. Whatever suits you. You can say that you want to pause the timer on restart, or maybe you don't want to pause the timer on restart. If you hit restart, you want it to keep going. Well, you can have that as an option. There's also the option for silent notifications, which personally I don't use. If I got a timer running, I want to know it's running. And then there's also repeating the alert sound and repeat notifications so that it keeps popping up. Just like one of your favorite apps, Mikah, Jew, does to say, hey, this is done. Hey, this is done. And this is really useful because what you can do, of course, is you can set up all of your different timers here for whatever it is that you're doing. And you can plan all of these in advance. So if you know, for example, this Thursday, you're going to have a really big meal, there's pizza and garlic bread and a salad. Oh my gosh, so much food. So say, for example, your pizza takes 20 minutes to cook, your garlic bread takes 7. Well, you can set up timers for both of those. And you could set up a 13-minute timer that says, put the garlic bread in the oven. And you can just have those running as you need. And it's really easy to do. And of course, when you're finished with something, well, then you can just swipe and delete. It works. It's really good. And the developer is actively working on new features, including the ability to sync your running timers through all of iCloud so that you'll be able to have them appear on your iPad and your Mac as well. And you can name these timers as well, which is really good. I love the fact that the timers are actually named with the name that I've chosen. And it's really good. I know you can set multiple timers using Siri on your Apple Watch or a HomePod, but you can't do it on an iPhone or an iPad. And that's where Just Timers really, it excels. It is Just Timers, but it's Just Timers done elegantly.
I dig it. All right. I'm going to be talking about a gadget this week, but first, the app or the cap atop my head is a turkey. It is a turkey with the little white paper things you put on the tips of the drumstick legs. And that, of course, is in honor of Thanksgiving, which typically features a big old turkey roasted or fried in some cases.
Wait, not pizza, Mikah? Oh, my gosh. I'm so confused.
Pizza.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I mean, I got everything wrong then. No, I knew it was turkey. It's just over here, we don't have Thanksgiving, so we have turkey at Christmas. So, yeah, I'll be eating pizza on Thursday, but not for any particular reason.
All right. So my pick this week is another Anker product. This is something that was jaw-droppingly awesome and absolutely something that I think it's just a brilliant idea. So I'm going to grab it. It's in the box. So it comes in kind of a big box. When I got it, I thought, oh my, this seems rather large, but that's because there's a lot going on with this device. So this is called the Anker 637 Magnetic Charging Station. And it's called that because it is a full-featured charging station. So you get a nice long plug that you plug directly into the wall. It's got, an AC plug on the back end of it. And what I like is that it comes out of the corner of the plug. So when you plug it in, it doesn't stick directly out. The wire doesn't directly stick out, and it doesn't get in the way if you decide to plug it in the top one because that plug comes out of the side there. It's angled downward. But on the front of it is a magnetic charging spot that will work with an iPhone. So I can take, and I'm trying to unplug now my iPhone. I can take my iPhone and I can stick it onto the front of here, and it will stay there because it's magnetically attached and charge my iPhone. Now, this sits on the desk in such a way that if I have this on my desk with my iPhone mounted right there, it's at a fantastic angle for still being able to view what's on the screen. Now, that alone would not justify the $99.99 price if it was just a magnetic desk charger that plugged into the wall. What makes this, I feel, more justify the price and why it's called a charging station is because on the back of it, you get 3 AC plugs. 2 of them are upside down. 1 of them is right side up. And 2 USB-A charging ports and 2 USB-C charging ports. As Chickenhead21 just said in the chat, wow, this is so cool. Some family members are getting this for Christmas. Thank you. Yeah, right? This thing is so awesome. Oh, I should also mention it's got surge protection as well. There's a little LED light for surge protection and grounded protection to let you know that the plug that you're plugging it into is properly grounded. And then this has surge protection built into it. It's IQ3 USB-C charging and IQ USB-A charging, which for Anker, let me see what that means here. High-speed USB-C charging, 65 watts for the USB-C. And I'm not sure how much the USB-A charging is. It's less, of course, than 65 watts. But 2 spots of 65-watt charging, 2 spots of slower charging for USB-A style devices. And then you get the 3 AC plugs at the top as well so that you can plug in whatever else you might want to. This sits on a desk with that phone facing forward, and then everything else can plug into the back of it. This is just perfect for the corner of the desk. I've got a HomePod mini on one side that's about this size. I set this on the other side, and boom, I'm charging all of my devices. It comes in a few colors. I just have the black one here, or the gray, I guess, version here. And I just think this is one of the cleverest products that Anker has made. It's an all-in-one device that I like. I think everybody should have one of these on their desks. It just makes perfect sense. It's great.
Yeah. Especially if you've got, say, a 13-inch MacBook Pro or something, those will charge with the 65 watts of power. I believe the new 14-inch ones, you'll need to check the power input on those to see whether or not that can use the 65-watt USB-C. But of course, you've got the plug. I love this. I wish we had that sort of thing over here in the UK. Our plugs are quite a bit bigger. So that's not something that's easy to do. Our plugs are also incredibly safe and incredibly painful if you stand on them. So, we swing some roundabouts there. But yes, that is fabulous. And don't forget, folks, Anker often do Black Friday deals. And I believe they are doing they've already got it on their webpage. At the moment, they're Black Friday, Cyber Monday deals. I've actually already picked up some of the Eufy products, which is one of Anker's other brands. For Black Friday sales, but have a look there if you are looking to get some family members some great charging devices. I know the MagGo charging lineup is pretty good. I looked at the battery, I think it was last week or the week before, and the ring. But yeah, this is good stuff. I'm officially jealous of you, Mikah, but it's okay. I'll let it slide.
I'm sorry that they don't have the plugs in the UK, your version in the UK, but yeah, that makes sense that it would be hard to fit 3 of them onto the back of this because they're a little bit bigger. But yes, this is such a clever idea. Congrats. Seriously, congrats to Anker for making these. It does a good job. So yeah, $99.99. We'll include a link in the show notes. And as Rosemary said, hey, check for Black Friday deals because there may be Black Friday deals for the Anker 636 24/7 magnetic charging station. Folks, we have reached the end of this episode of iOS Today. Of course, for those of you who celebrate, we are wishing you a very happy Thanksgiving, and of course, a fantastic rest of your holiday season. If you've got questions for us, if you have not had your shortcuts question answered yet, or just regular questions answered, send those to iostoday@twit.tv. You can tune in live to watch the show if you'd like as we record it. We do that every Tuesday at 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. You just go to twit.tv/live where you can see all the different places we stream live, including Twitch and YouTube and a few other places. But we think the best way to get the show is by subscribing. And you can do that by going to twit.tv/iOS, where you can click to subscribe to audio or video across all sorts of different things. Now, sometimes when people hear that subscribe button, they think, wait, do I have to pay? No. You get the show for free. That's why we have ads that help us keep the show going. Or you can subscribe to audio or video. We do our best to make it so that if you're listening instead of watching, that you're still getting everything that you need. But I do think that oftentimes for this show in particular, the video version is particularly spectacular, if you will. Now, if you don't like ads and you don't want ads, well, there is a way to get the show by paying for it. And then you get an ad-free version. It's called Club Twit. Club Twit is a way that for $7 a month, you get every single one of our Twitch shows with no ads. So you'll get like a custom feed of every single show. You can download any show that you want to, plus access to Twit Plus bonus feed. It has content you won't find anywhere else, behind the scenes, outtakes, etc., and access to the members-only Discord server, which is a place where you can chat with your fellow Club Twit members, as well as us hosts and other folks that are part of Twit. It's a really awesome place to be. Lots of different channels that are in there, or pages, however you kind of want to think about it, to chat about all sorts of things. If that sounds good to you, twit.tv/clubtwit to check that out. $7 a month. We also heard that some folks wanted to support certain shows independently. And so if you are a listener via Apple Podcasts, well, you should know that you can get an ad-free version of the audio feed by subscribing for $2.99 a month. You just open up Apple Podcasts, you search for iOS Today, you tap on the audio feed, and you'll see a button that says subscribe. You can click on that for $2.99 a month. Boom, you're supporting the show directly. You get an ad-free version of the audio feed, and that is a great way to show your support if you want to. Rosemary Orchard, if folks want to follow you online and check out all your great work, where do they go to do so?
The best place is rosemaryorchard.com, which has got links to social media and all the things that I do online, including, of course, my Twitter, which is @RosemaryOrchard. And you can also find me in the Club Twit Discord, and frequently going through the, oh my gosh, large pile of email that we've got recently. Don't worry if you sent it recently. I'm working on it. We have limited amount of time for the show every week, but I have got all of your feedback so far. And so I'm working on getting it into the show whenever we can. Micah, where can people find you?
You can find me online at Mikah Sargent on many a social media service, or you can head to chihuahua.coffee. That's CHIHUAHUA.coffee, where I've got links to many of the places I am active online. Thank you again for tuning in. We will see you next week on iOS Today. Goodbye.
Have you ever read a tech news story and thought to yourself, man, I would love to talk to the person who wrote this to find out more information? Well, that's exactly what Micah Sargent and I, Jason Howell, do each and every week on Tech News Weekly. We read the stories that matter to us, we reach out to the people making and breaking the tech news, and we invite them on to tell their story. And you can find it at twit.tv. Look for Tech News Weekly every Thursday.